Hello, welcome to Daath Gaming. I'm your host Talion, and we are playing some Star Controller 2, the Ur-Quan Masters. This episode is going to deal with a lot of probably discussion with back history and the different races. We do have some changes, obviously. You can see we have 25 RU. That is actually the money in this game, as I was described in the previous video, to build ships, buy crew, and anything else that we might need in the game. So what we want to do, we do have some minerals, so let's go ahead and offload these.
Not a bad job, Captain.
He'll have different remarks based on how much you actually bring. So what we can do is, let's see, before proceeding, I need some additional background information.
Certainly, Captain. What do you need to know?
Alright, would you elaborate on the facilities here?
We can modify your precursor ship, build additional combat vessels, and supply you with fuel and crew.
Alright, what can you do to enhance and modify the Daath?
Our engineers and precursor specialists agree with the scientists from your world that your starship was designed to be a workhorse vehicle, which can be easily reconfigured for different missions by adding or swapping self-contained equipment packs, which we call modules. The modules we can build right now are thruster units, which make your ship move faster, attitude jets, which allow you to rotate the ship more quickly, crew pods, which provide life support facilities for up to 50 additional crew members, storage bays, which increase your ship's cargo capacity for mineral resources, fuel tanks, which hold an additional 50 units of fuel, dynamos, which feed energy into your combat energy batteries, improving your weapon's rate of fire. And last but not least, ion bolt guns, combat weaponry, the exact function of which depends on its location aboard the ship. When put in the first or front module slot, it fires a single shot forward. When put in the second slot, it fires 2 shots, spread to the left and right of center. When put in the third slot, it fires 2 shots directly, left and right. And when put in the last or rear slot, it fires a single shot straight backwards.
So you have definitely some options for your weaponry, which is kind of nice. You can put other modules in those slots. You don't have to use them for weapons, but if you do, then they have to be, of course, specifically put in those spots. Okay, how will I get some fuel?
This base is designed to service hierarchy ships. Fortunately, your flagship uses the same stabilized antimatter technology as hierarchy vessels and will be able to synthesize what you need. However, due to the size of your ship, we'll have to produce vast quantities of fuel, which will be a substantial drain on our resources.
Alright, how can I assemble a fleet?
Our shipyard facilities are sophisticated and fully automated, permitting a handful of Starbase personnel to do the same job as 500 vac-suited construction workers. However, the only designs that we had in our computers were incomplete hierarchy ship designs. Things looked grim until one of the officers came forward with an amazing story. Even though the Ur-Quan destroyed every Earthling cruiser in the fleet nearly 20 years ago, one of my maintenance engineers was a Starship production assistant at the Detroit shipyard. When Earth was conquered, she was ordered to destroy all ship construction databases. But she secretly made copies of the blueprint discs and then kept them with her ever since. These discs contain all the data we need to build as many Earthling cruisers as you want, provided you, Captain, can supply the large amounts of mineral resources required to build those vessels. In theory, Captain, we could build alien starships here if we had designs for them. However, it's a well-known fact that alien vessels just can't be flown in combat without native starship captains at the helm.
Basically what he's saying is, if we ever make alliances, that's the only way we're ever going to get new ships. So that's something to be mindful of as you play. We can't just simply go and make any ship we want. We actually have to be allies with some of these other species. And some of them we will never ever be able to basically own or make, because some are, of course, hostile. So, alright, so how will we acquire additional personnel?
We have almost 2,000 highly motivated, skilled professionals aboard this starbase, and every single one of them wants a berth aboard your starship. However, each hand we lose to your ship means less manpower here at the starbase, and this is reflected in the crew RU cost. As long as you don't lose too many crew members to combat or planet exploration, the RU cost will remain static. But we have only so many warm bodies on this starbase, and if your needs for crew grow beyond a certain point, the cost could increase dramatically.
So that is something we have to be aware of course, is how many people die in combat or as landing missions. So it can go up pretty quickly. There is a way to get around it, but I will wait for that for a future episode. You'll see what I'm talking about once we get there. Okay, would you please explain the resource allocation?
As you know, Captain, we've committed the entire output of this station to building your flagship and your battle fleet into the strongest force possible. However, our resources are very limited, and we feel you must decide how we are to spend our effort and materials. To aid you in making these decisions, we have implemented a resource allocation scheme. We provide you with a numerical assessment of the station's resources and ascribe a cost to each task we can perform and each device we can build. It's up to you to decide how you're going to spend your resource units, or RU as we call them. To acquire more RU, you must bring resources back to the starbase. These resources can be either in the form of mineral ores gathered from planet surfaces or already refined metals and other valuable materials from the wreckage of enemy starships.
Okay. What kind of resources are most useful?
The most straightforward way you can accumulate resource units is to bring mineral ores back to this starbase. There are probably enough resources in just the nearby dozen stars to build your ship into a powerful battleship or to create a strong task force of combat vessels. I would also recommend that you build several additional storage bays. When gathering minerals, focus on cleaning out one star system at a time. This way you minimize the cost of travel through hyperspace.
He is very accurate with that assessment. What we're going to definitely do is get another storage bay. We're going to actually get another fuel unit, and if we can, maybe even another lander, just in case we lose one. So we have a few options, but he is correct. You can easily build up your ship quickly just by going through a couple of star systems. What use are planet landers' sophisticated life form analysis features? Okay.
While I respect your search for abstract knowledge, frankly, Captain, in our present circumstances, I see little use for such data here. Perhaps you could make use of biological information elsewhere.
That is a hint to a race that we will meet.
What else can I tell you?
Alright, so we did that. We're now going to go into the long, drawn-out aspect of history and races.
What aspect of history, Captain?
We'd like to know about the other starfaring races.
Which group of aliens?
We'll look at the Old Alliance.
Okay. Which race?
We'll start with the Shofixi. And as I said, a lot of these are going to have names of star systems and stuff like that, which are very useful to keep in the back of your mind or make notes. That's why being able to...
Okay. Which race?
Do this with the...
Okay.
Being able to read
Okay.
so that will make it very helpful if you ever play this. Okay, so the Shofixi.
The Shofixi are a race of intelligent marsupials who had been civilized for only a few decades when the war began. They were discovered in the Delta Gorno star system by the Daath, who adopted and then uplifted the Shofixi, giving them advanced technology and cultural definition. Shofixi are noble and fearless warriors, Captain. In addition, their incredible fecundity and rapid maturation rate kept Alliance ranks solid even at the worst part of the war. You know, I once flew as an observer aboard one of their ships on routine patrol. We never saw the enemy, but I could never stop thinking about the glory device it had strapped to the bottom of its hull.
The Shofixi has an ability, a special ability, basically blowing up their ship. And if it's close enough to the enemy, it will do a lot of damage, if not destroy the other ship on top of it. So that's the glory device he was talking about. So about the Daath.
The Daath are a race of ancient warrior clans that have been traveling the stars for many centuries. Clans are highly competitive and sometimes even wage war on each other, but the clans are all loyal to the Queen and her royal family, known as the Veepzeeps. The Veepzeeps have been in power for over 2,000 years, and it is said that during their rule, the Daath never lost a battle.
Well, that kind of is ended, I guess, because I'm assuming they lost to Ur-Quan.
I'd like to think I'm not a bigoted person, Captain, especially when it comes to allies, but there's just something about those Arilu that gives me the creeps. One thing I'll say for them, though, they possess some technique for moving really fast through hyperspace. They never let us know what it was, but sure beats the pants off our fastest ships.
The Arilu Lolilay, as they're called, think of all the stories that we got told about alien abductions and stuff like that, little green men and stuff like that. That's the Arilu.
The Genjasu were leaders of the Alliance, even though they refused to accept formally the title. I don't know if their silicon-based biology is just plain superior to our old carbon models, or if their fantastic intellect were the product of an ancient, peaceful culture. Whatever the reason, I'd rather be taking orders from a Genjasu than any other life form, absolutely. One of the more amazing things about them was they never used hyperwave communicators. They could send messages naturally, and their natural hyperwave receptors were much more sensitive than even our best units.
The Murnaherm.
We didn't really get much of a chance to learn about those mechanical beings, but I'll tell you what I know. They're the product of a distant, unknown culture who sent a giant factory arc into our region of space many centuries ago. The Mother Arc, that's what the Earth Press called it, churned out millions of robots and finally broke down. I don't know why the Murnaherm didn't repair the Mother Arc. Maybe they can't. My personal guess as to why they were sent here is that they're on the leading edge of a colonization project. And once the Murnaherm obtained enough new worlds, the genuine colonists, whoever they are, will arrive and claim their due.
Alright, the Cyrene.
Most raw recruits saw the Cyrene as nothing more than warm-breathing pin-ups. Warm they are, and yes, they do breathe most magnificently, but Captain, they are far more than simple joy units. The history shows the Cyrene established and maintained a peaceful culture from their Bronze Age through their discovery of starflight. Before their planet was destroyed in a horrible cataclysm, their world was an Eden.
If you didn't pick it up, basically the Cyrene are just like the mythological creatures that would drag men to their death. Very beautiful, attractive women. They actually have a matriarch society, the Sirens do. Or did. Maybe they still do. I can't remember. Anyway, so that's enough of the Alliance.
What other group of aliens are you interested in?
Let's talk about the hierarchy and their battle draws.
Which species?
Well, let's start with the main one, the Ur-Quan.
Our enemy is cunning, relentless, and possesses technology superior to all, but perhaps that found aboard your starship. The Ur-Quan are born, live, and die for one purpose only: the subjugation of all other intelligent life in the galaxy. Why? I don't know. They'd probably have an easier time just destroying intelligence, but they're very careful not to use more force than is necessary to achieve their victim's submission. I'd sure like to know what made those wormy bastards as twisted as they are, and I'd like to know why they keep on the move, never stopping longer than it takes to enslave whomever they find.
The Mycon.
The Mycons are hard to get a handle on. In fact, I'm not sure any human has ever had a real conversation with a Mycon. What we know of them, we've learned from their corpses, which, I may add, have a nasty habit of coming back to life when thawed out from a decompression quick freeze. Mycon ships seem to expend a significant amount of energy on life support. This is probably because the Mycon only thrive in temperatures close to the melting point of lead. As far as we know, the Mycon are the only race to actively seek out the Ur-Quan in order to become combat slaves.
Alright, the Spathi.
Imagine facing a cowardly, mobile clam armed with a howitzer, and you've got a good idea of what it's like dealing with a Spathi. Although they tend to avoid battles as much as their masters will allow, once in battle, a Spathi eluder is one tough cookie. I once heard a rumor, though I don't like to believe in it myself, that a rogue band of courageous Spathi broke away from the main Starfleet, painted their ships black with bright red stripes, and formed the Black Spathi Squadron, dedicated to performing brave and hostile deeds. Like I said, I'd have to see it to believe it.
Alright, what about the Umga?
It's unfortunate that the Umga fell to the Ur-Quan so early in the war, because I suspect we would have gotten along well with those big blob creatures. At the very least, it would have been entertaining. We know them a bit better than most races because they were eager to talk with our ships before, after, and during battle. The Arilu intimated that they had a relationship with the Umga before the Ur-Quan arrived, but I don't know any details.
Alright, the Anderson.
When I was flying combat missions along the Corward front, there was nothing we feared more than the Androset hit-and-run squadron. Their blazer ships were more than a match for our cruisers, so we stayed clear of Ada Vulpeculae, their home star. In addition, I think each of us aboard the ship knew deep down in our hearts that the Androset had a damn good reason for hating us. Our grandparents had kept them as slaves for nearly 50 years.
Basically, it's almost like they were synthetic humans. Robots, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe clones. The Ur-Wrath, which we just dealt with.
I still have nightmares about those spiders taking me prisoner, using me as one of their 6 sacrifices to Dogar and Kazon, their twin gods of destruction and torment. Those guys were almost as scary as the Anderson to those of us in Deep Space Patrol. Their Avenger ships could appear out of nowhere and melt a cruiser down to slag in seconds. Luckily for us, the bulk of the Ur-Wrath fleet was thrown against the Genjesu and the Myrnaherm.
Alright, what about the Bucks?
The Starship Far Voyager under the command of Captain Jeffrey L. Rand encountered the Vux near Beta Mira. Although the details are hazy, it's generally accepted that Rand offended the Vux starship commander with an inadvertent insult.
Alright, so that's all the hierarchy.
What other group of aliens are you interested in?
We dealt with all them. Were there any alien races who weren't in the war?
None that we had made formal contact with. The Genjesu implied that they had met 2 other star-faring species, one near the Gickless constellation and the other directly corward from Procyon. The Arilu Lalile once mentioned having some fun with an alien race in Draconis, but like so much else with the Arilu, they never revealed the whole story. I'm sure there are hundreds more alien races in our galaxy, but beyond what I've told you, your guess is as good as mine.
Alright. So let me go back. I know he mentioned
the Arilu other star-faring species, one near the Gickless constellation and the other directly corward from Procyon. The Arilu Lalile once mentioned having some fun with an alien race in Draconis.
Okay.
But like so much else with the Arilu, they never revealed the whole story. I'm sure there are hundreds more alien races in our galaxy, but beyond what I've told you, your guess is as good as mine.
Alright, so we have a couple of star systems to check out so far.
Would you like information on any other aspect of history?
Yes, we do. What happened in the war?
What about the war?
Well, how did the war with Ur-Quan start?
Earth got involved late in the game in 2112 when the Genjesu arrived in our solar system for the first time. So let's back up a few years to 2098 when the Genjesu super-sensitive receivers detected a strange signal from the Ophiuchi constellation. Though even the Genjesu didn't know it, it was the first sign of the Ur-Quan's arrival. The Ur-Quan, having detected the presence of many sentient species, were beaming out an exulting hunting cry. The first direct evidence of the Ur-Quan's intent was the sudden conquest of the Umga, a solitary though not unfriendly species in the Orionis constellation. Genjesu, distraught by the invasion, were further angered when the Ur-Quan turned their fleets on the hostile but weak Ur-Wrath race. A hastily assembled defense force of Myrnaherm and Genjesu vessels turned the Ur-Quan fleet aside, but the invader moved into Spathi space, rapidly subjugating that race. With each new conquest, the Ur-Quan fleet grew larger as it added slave vessels to its ranks. Earth joined the Genjesu to form the Alliance of Free Stars at about the same time as the Androsynth stars fell to the Ur-Quan armada. Before the ink was dry on our agreement with the Genjesu in 2116, a new race appeared in orbit around the moon and asked for admittance to the Alliance. It was the Arilu Lalile. The timing seemed unusual, and the Arilu were definitely weird, looking like saucer men from Mars, but we were too busy cranking up our mothballed heavy industry that we really didn't pay it much attention at the time.
Alright, so what happened during the war?
At the start of the war, here on Earth, we were working like crazy, churning out hundreds of heavy cruisers and smaller support vehicles. The Ur-Quan were busy too. Unbeknownst to us, they had moved down towards the Luton Star Group and were attacking the Vux, who only the Yehat knew existed. Our botched first contact with the Vux took place in 2119, and it was the biggest single mistake we made during the war. After defeating the Vucks, the Ur-Quan fleets ran smack into the combined might of the Ahot and Shofixti, supported by the first wave of our cruisers. Again, the Ur-Quan turned away from the hard spot to attack the weak, though we just thought they were running away. In fact, the Ur-Quan had found another independent alien race, the Mycon, in the Brahe constellation. The Mycon's voluntary submission to the Ur-Quan brought the return of the Ur-Quan fleets, now swollen with 100 devastating Mycon pod ships. The last entrants to the conflict were the Cyrene, a race of space gypsies who had escaped the hierarchy by moving their vast fleet of slow-moving habitats into human space. With the side set, the last Ur-Quan offensive began.
All right, so how did it end?
The Ur-Quan came roaring through Vux space and tried to push past the India and Mira star systems. Their onslaught was barely repulsed, and our counterattack made hardly a dent in the hierarchy forces, but we held the line. The Corward front remained intact. Over the following 10 years, there were many great battles between the combined Alliance Starfleet and the Ur-Quan and their hierarchy of battle thralls. Then in 2134, a dramatic shift in the balance of power took place. This must have been about the time the science research mission was sent to the planet of Vela. Our fleets were pushed back from the Indy-Mira line beyond Raynet. Holding Rigel caused grievously in Chenjesu forces, and the Ur-Quan, recognizing this weakness, shifted to focus the brunt of their forces on Procyon. That was the last we heard from the Chenjesu and the Murnaher. A few weeks later, waves of ships hit us from all directions. When Ceres Station, our outpost on the asteroid belt, fell to the hierarchy, we knew we were beaten, but we fought on anyway. 3 days later, the Ur-Quan vaporized our last remaining laser forts on the moon, and the dreadnoughts took up geosynchronous position above Rome, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo, London, Buenos Aires, and Washington. We'd lost the war, and we knew it. But the Ur-Quan decided to make it real clear. And that's why if you check any of our most recent maps, you won't find Buenos Aires.
What is up with sci-fi movies and Buenos Aires? Just wiping it off the map. You know, first this game, and then Starship Troopers, if you've ever watched that, they destroy it with a meteor. So it's like, I think someone just has a grudge against that city. Okay, so what happened after the war?
After the UN submitted their formal surrender, we were given a week to decide the nature of our servitude. The Ur-Quan demanded that the decision be made through popular vote. When all the votes were tallied, Earth had chosen not to fight for the Ur-Quan. We had become a fallow slave world. We were given a month to withdraw all of our people and equipment to Earth. Anyone or anything left off-planet would be destroyed after the shield went up. Then the Ur-Quan broadcast an odd message. All objects of human construction more than 500 years old were to be abandoned. We didn't know what the Ur-Quan meant until they moved their dreadnoughts into new orbital positions and opened fire on the surface with their fusion weapons. In seconds, large sections of London, Paris, and other European cities were incinerated. At first, we thought they were going to annihilate us after all. And we noticed they were also striking such targets as the Giza Pyramids, the Parthenon in Athens, and Stonehenge. Curiously, the United States was almost untouched. The flaming rain lasted 40 hellish hours. It took days after we crawled from our smoldering shelters to realize what the Ur-Quan had done. Our new masters had targeted every building, monument, or other man-made construction older than 500 years and destroyed it. In those 2 days, we lost most of the history of mankind. In some cases, the Ur-Quan destroyed places we did not even suspect were significant. From their positions in orbit, the dreadnoughts blew away a kilometer of land in central Iraq, vaporized several targets in the Amazon rainforest, punched a big hole through the Antarctic ice cap to destroy something deep under the surface, and melted a broad swath of the ocean floor in the southeastern Atlantic. Then, just a couple of days later, the shield went up, and our contact with the outside world stopped. The next time I saw the stars was 8 years ago, when I was transferred up here to be the new commander of this starbase.
All right, thank you for the briefing.
Would you like any information on any other aspect of history?
Let's see. What about information on ancient galactic history?
We have some data on this subject. What do you want to know about?
What can you tell me about the precursors?
Well, you probably know more about them than I do, but here goes. About 200,000 years ago, when our great to the nth grandparents were just starting to play with stone knives and bearskins, a star-faring species suddenly appeared on the galactic scene and spread like wildfire. We found evidence of their presence just about everywhere, from an orbital platform on Alpha Centauri to a stack of data plates in a cave on Pluto to some nameless widget found in a voodoo shop in New Orleans. We never found a precursor body or even a picture of one. We can conjecture what they look like by examining the scale and layout of their equipment. Such an analysis indicates they were giants, say 5 to 8 meters tall and twice as wide. I don't know if they looked more like a brontosaur or an elephant. Anyway, about 3,000 years after the precursors made their dramatic appearance, they vanished. Poof! As far as we can tell, it took less than a decade to happen.
All right. What about some other races?
You mean besides the precursors? Well, the only information we have is secondhand based on some research by a Chenzesu historian that I read at the academy. Zed-Sert-Sek, the historian, found some evidence that there was a group of alien races who formed an interstellar empire not too far from here about 22,000 years ago. The only species in this empire actually lived in our region of space was a race of rock-like creatures that lived in the Vulpeculae constellation. The presence of the hostile androsynth in that part of space severely limited Zed-Sert-Sek's research. He never even found out the race's name.
What did he say?
Earth lived in the Vulpeculae constellation.
Okay. Vulpeculae, so we'll have to go check that out too. Is there any indication that aliens visited Earth in the past?
Yes, there is. Aside from the precursor relics we have found on Earth, often in museums mislabeled as modern art, we've discovered disturbing evidence of much more recent visitations. Perhaps you're already aware that during the mid to late 20th century, there were unaccountable UFO sightings as well as dozens of reported encounters with alien life forms. Although we can discount many of the reports as wishful fabrication or traumatic translation, the military authorities of the time kept a secret record of the incidents which were legitimate. In each such case, the aliens are almost identical in appearance. They have white skin and minimal facial features except for huge almond-shaped eyes, which are often described as glowing or luminescent. This description fits almost perfectly the Arielu Lalile. In most of the legitimate encounters, the people involved describe being physically examined or modified by the aliens. In some cases, unusual pregnancies occurred, and in almost every instance, there were repeat visitations as though the Arielu Lalile were doing checkups on their subjects. We never got the chance to confront the Arielu Lalile about what they did to us and why. I wonder if we ever will.
Well, that's fascinating. Let's move on.
Would you like information on any other aspect of history?
No more
Sure.
history.
Anything else?
Let's see. So we've done that. We've done historical. I like your input now on how we can defeat the Ur-Quan.
Can you be more specific?
Okay, where can I find the most useful, plentiful materials?
If you have the patience, I would recommend you spend several months or even a year gathering mineral resources. You can find such minerals on almost any planet's surface, but the quality and density will vary depending upon the type of planet you're on. Base metals are probably the most common materials you'll find, but they aren't particularly valuable. You can find rarer precious and radioactive elements on metal-rich worlds such as Mercury. An old miner once told me that you could tell the relative quality of a planet's minerals based on the planet's color as seen from space. To remember the color sequence from good to bad, the miner had a mnemonic that went something like, very young orangutan could grow bananas perhaps rather well. It is also the case that mineral yields will be better at hotter stars. Temperature is related to the size and color of a star. Red stars are the coolest, then orange, yellow, green, blue, and the hottest stars are white.
Alright. How should I deal with the aliens I meet in space?
That all depends on whom you meet, doesn't it, Captain? Well, in all seriousness, if you encounter the Ilrath, Vux, Androsynth, or other hierarchy battle thralls, I wouldn't hold out much hope for a peaceful encounter. So if you feel you have the advantage, attack. The resources you will scavenge from the enemy's wreckage are well worth the effort. If you can find Alliance races who are in a position to help us, then you must convince them to join with us. Their assistance may be crucial to our success.
Alright, if you're in my shoes, what would you do now?
Let's see. You need to build up and balance the strength of your flagship. I would add thrusters up to, say, 5 or 6. Speed is essential in combat, but it would also pay off over the long haul in hyperspace. And if you prefer to avoid confrontation, nothing beats a great pair of legs. I would add turning jets for increased maneuverability. I would add enough weapons to defend yourself if you're caught without escort ships. You need more crew, at least 50 to make productive voyages into space. You need additional fuel, at least 50 units. Your weapons will be underpowered in combat if you don't have at least 1 dynamo. Use the resource units you have accumulated to improve your flagship.
This is mostly what he just gave us, information like if you've never played this game before, it would be very helpful just to have an idea of what you might want to do. You can't do it all right immediately, but it's at least some good stepping stones. Okay, so let's find out, how can we deal with the Ur-Quan?
Captain, I wish I had an easy answer, but I don't. The only way I can see of liberating Earth as well as the Alliance allies is to destroy the Ur-Quan and their armada of battle thralls entirely.
Alright. Commander, do you have any long-range plans to defeat the Ur-Quan hierarchy?
To defeat our enemies, we will need awesome strength, both in your flagship and the fleet, as well as the assistance of powerful new allies. Though combat will be unavoidable and sometimes necessary to achieve our goals, I'm certain your wits will be at least as important as your weapons. You'll need to explore this region of space, gathering resources and information wherever you go.
Alright. How can I find Ur-Quan?
I don't know, Captain, but I suspect their battle thralls know more than we do, so I suggest you try to gather information from them, perhaps by force.
Alright. How can we attack the Ur-Quan most effectively?
At first, your ship will be far too vulnerable to permit frontal assaults on the Ur-Quan. Even when your ship is at full power, we're faced with the reality that the hierarchy has thousands of ships. You cannot win the fight alone, Captain. You need allies. Also, towards the end of the war, when the hierarchy broke through the Corward front, we heard rumors that the Ur-Quan had unleashed some kind of super weapon which was unstoppable by normal means. You need to find out if that rumor was true, Captain, because if the Ur-Quan do have such a weapon, we'll have to find some way to stop it, or all our efforts are for naught.
Okay. Keep that little note aside. It is important. So how can we make alliances?
If you encounter an unknown alien race, proceed carefully and diplomatically. We need all the friends we can get, and we certainly can't afford any more enemies. Remember, Captain, with your precursor starship, you hold awesome power. But there will be situations when dealing with an alien race where a carrot will serve better than a stick. But first, you must determine what carrot the alien wants.
Okay, what is the fastest way for us to build up our strengths?
You need to accumulate enough resources so we can build up your flagship and assemble a strong fleet. I'd also recommend that you acquire blueprints for other, more powerful ships than our trusty cruiser. I suspect that aliens will not give you such prints unless you form an alliance with them.
Yeah.
What else can we discuss?
Okay, I've learned all I need.
What else can I tell you?
Okay, so we've done that. We looked at historical data. I would like your input. Okay, so we've done all the talking, I think.
Fine. Is there anything else you need?
Wow, how he said fine really makes it sound like I'm done talking, leave me alone. Alright, bye, Commander.
Return soon, Captain.
He seemed like he was totally done talking to us. Okay, so we have a couple of options here. We can talk to the Commander. Every once in a while, we'll want to talk to him about certain items we might find and stuff like that. And of course, that's where we go to sell our units, the materials that we find. Outfit, Starship. This is where we can actually buy, of course, fuel. We can also buy modules for this. So let's actually look and see what we have. So right now, here's our units for turning jets. So if we want, they're 500 each. We don't want that. How much is an engine? Engine's 500. Okay. A lander, that's 500. So that shows you just how expensive things are. Okay. So if we want a crew pod, that's 2,000. But that holds 50 additional, so we have almost 100 people at that point. I don't think we're going to need to worry about that just yet. Just because we're trying to get minerals. So I don't foresee us right now needing tons of people, as long as we're careful on what planets we go to. Here's the great thing. say like we take this off, and it shows 750. We actually get 750 back automatically. So, like right here, we don't really need that. That just gave us 2,000 RU units. Because right now, we're not going to take our ship into combat. We are going to do everything we can to avoid combat with this guy. So let's go ahead and get us another storage bin. I want to get another fuel pod. So there's the fuel tank. So let's see. There's the dynamo that they talked about for the guns. And then, let's see, there should be... Oh yeah, the reason we can't pick it is because for us to pick the weapons, we have to be on one of these spots. Then we can actually put in the iron bolt gun and decide how we want it to shoot. So since we have all that, let's actually go ahead and get fuel real quick. That's probably an important thing to have right now. So let's get fuel, and we'll just hold this down until we get max. And the cool part is if you look at the top left of the screen, you can actually see as the fuel gets filled up. So it's kind of interesting with that. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of a neat little ability that they have. Okay, so we now have 110 fuel, so that's good. Let's see, we want to get more mud. Okay, so we have 2 fuel, we have a pod, we have 2 storage bins, which is great. Let's get some engines. And we'll want ability to turn. Alright, so we're almost broke. But we're going to be able to move faster. We will be able to turn a little bit faster as well, which is useful. Now we want to go to the shipyard. This is where you can buy crew, and you can also make ships if you have the money. So if we had the money, and 1100 we could make a cruiser. That's the only ship we can make right now until we meet other people. So what we want to do is fleet. We want crew. So let's get that crew. Right now it's 3 per person. If you, of course, lose too many people, the price can go up pretty quickly. I think it jumps up to like 4 or 5. And then eventually I think you can actually run out of people if you aren't careful. So that is one thing to definitely remember as well. But right now, I think we're going to just get rid of the ship too. We don't need it. So once you actually go all the way to 0, it will scrap it. And once again, we have more money. So we're going to go back to the outfit, and we're going to get a little bit more on... We're going to get 1 more speed unit, and we're going to get another turning. So now we move a lot faster. Almost, when you think about it, we're moving pretty good. We now have 2 turnings, so we actually will turn a lot faster as well. So I feel like we're in pretty good starting position. So we will depart. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically spend the first month just in this area. And you'll notice we actually turn a little bit better. We actually move a little bit faster. Let's see. We're going to go back to Jupiter real quick. And we're going to finish off on the moons. And then at that point, we'll probably call the episode at that point. Let's see. I think we finished this planet, but I want to double check. So let's just make sure there's nothing here. Yep. Great. Alright, so we'll navigate. And we'll go to this next one. Before I go here, I want to actually save just real quick. That way we have it saved just in case this planet is more dangerous than we thought. Not too much earthquake, only a 2, that's good. I'll be honest, if a place has lightning at a 2 or a 3, I'm normally very wary of those just because the lightning for some reason just loves attacking your ship. You'll understand as we do this, and it's crazy. The temperature right now is at negative 161, that's not bad. If that ever goes, if that's ever like 100 or higher, you'll actually have like small trail of flames as a hazard on the planet. So you'll have to watch that. Let's see what we got. Looks like we got some decent stuff here. I won't say it's amazing, but it looks like it's some decent stuff. Looks like there's some radioactives and some uncommons. So I think that'll be worth sending a ship down. Alright. Alright. These guys here are not worth as much. The bromine. I think they're uncommon minerals. We'll take a look when we get back to the... Let's take a look. Cargo. Yeah, see, they're corrosive. They're only worth 2, so they're really not worth it too much for us to pick them up. So we probably will leave this planet, this particular place alone. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, see how those are like the pale green or like a teal color? Those are almost useless to get because they are worth 1 each. They are really not worth sending down to get it. So we're going to completely ignore that planet or that moon. Let's see if this planet's any, or this moon is any better. This has nothing. Callisto is empty. Nada. Okay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to navigate. We're going to leave this planet. And what we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to finish cleaning out all of the Sol star system. So, I will see you all in the next one.